needs to choose the right tools. 2, context. Enough context or enough information is needed for utilizing these tools. 3, structure. Plan first. 4, rules. Think of it as giving a child a set of instructions, and they need to build on that. Then finally, one of my favorite superheroes in the game, MCPs. Supercharge your dev work with MCPs. Let's start with the first one. Tools. Stop using AI tools as an afterthought, guys. Choose tools designed for AI-first development. A recent study by Google says that 90% of developers are using AI 2 hours on average, and 81% have told Google that the AI tools that they use have massive productivity gains. Now, I've classified these tools into 3 categories, but I'm pretty sure there are probably other categories out there. But the major categories are 1, IDE integration tools. They work inside your code editor. 2, CLI tools, more powerful for the command line interface, but a very deep, steep learning curve, a bit steep to learn. And then there are our obvious web-based tools, ChatGPT, Claude AI, good for questions, not particularly good for implementation. Now, my primary tool, at least for this session, is Casa IDE. Why? Casa is like what everyone is using right now in 2025. It's a big thing because it's VS Code. Users of this code in the building. Oh, cool. It's VS Code, but it's built for AI. What's the key difference? It understands your entire code base, not just the file you're looking at. I also use Claude on the CLI, which is when I need more control and want to work feature by feature from the terminal. A bit steep to learn the rules and the, what do we call them? The context window, but really amazing tool. And we'll talk about it as we continue. Common mistake we make, I think most of us have made. Guys, don't chase every AI model. Just this week, we had which model? People who say relevant in the AI space. Which model released this week? Sonnet 4.5, right? And then there were others. GPT-5 came last month. So imagine you're using GPT-5 and then a new model releases again. And then tomorrow there'll probably be a new model from Gemini. Don't chase every AI model. Don't chase the rabbits out the hole. Depth beats breadth when building muscle memory and workflows. Commit to one tool, or at least a month. Then explore alternatives. But here's the thing. Even the best tools are useless if you don't give it the right context. A sewing machine cannot be used in a carpentry station, right? So if you don't give it the right context, the tool is useless. Which brings us to rule number 2. Context. Context is key. Now, a quick show of hands. How many of you have had AI generate code, but it doesn't fit your project? Have you did that? Oh, you guys are doing the right thing at the right time. All right. I remember Casa, is it Casa 0 point something, is it Casa 1? Whereby whenever I would try and generate code, I would want it to use Next.js version 14, but it would always default to version 12. Anyone have ever experienced that? Or maybe it has a wrong pattern of doing it uses functions instead of classes, or it uses classes instead of functions. Have you experienced that? Or basically, and this is one of the things I've ever experienced, it just hallucinates. It's wrong. It probably codes with, is it Ruby instead of React? I mean, okay, maybe it's just me, sorry guys. So the more context your AI has, the better its outputs. So think of context as the difference between asking a stranger for directions and someone who actually knows your entire journey. The AI doesn't know our project. It knows general web development. We need to teach it about our project. And we'll go through the foundation, project context, then feature contexts, requirement and specification for features, then the current task focus, which is the session context. For my development, while using Claude, I always run, there's I'm looking for this one. There's a command that's called init. It runs before the project starts. If it's a project that I'm coming in new, it helps me to document everything about that project. I kind of think of it as an AI instruction manual for my project. It's a dynamic README for your AI. This is how it kind of looks. I'll probably show another screenshot within my code. But for example, I have a project that I'm working on that is a Taskmaster Pro. The init function runs through my product, my PRD, because one will come to plan it. But it runs through what PRD I have, or the legacy code I'm trying to rework, or any other code base that I've just been added into. So it creates an overview, documents the tech stack, and also adds some standards and best practices, and the development priority for this. This is where you need to start. Always have a set of instructions beforehand, and that is the foundation, the project context. In some other IDEs, I think it's called Gemini, is the Gemini MD, it's the same thing, yeah. But always start from this. The project is the foundation. Then we move to the feature specific, the feature context. This is for bigger features. I prefer to create feature specific documentation. These files act as a blueprint that provides the AI with enough information about the task at hand. So for example, in my project Taskmaster Pro, I'd like to create a feature called real-time notifications. It creates the requirements, or I also create the requirements for you to understand. Technical decisions and all the related files. Normally, you want your AI to do this after reading through your PRD. And when every development session, you're starting from a lead development session, point your AI to this specific feature file. This helps to let the AI know not to deviate. Because sometimes I've seen it in the past, when you're creating real-time notifications, it starts thinking, and then all of a sudden it realizes, okay, we need user on. So it diverts and starts implementing the user on when you want it to create just a real-time notifications feature. So always initiate this before every development session. Have it in your toolbox as an arsenal. 3, session context. This is for relatively small sessions or relatively small code that you need it to look into for that particular. Honestly, it's like a temporary information that you give the AI for a particular query. It ensures that the AI is hyper relevant to your current focus. For example, I just want to change this button and not the whole button, the whole category of buttons in the system. Casa has a nice way to do this. You just highlight. Sometimes you don't even have to highlight. It just knows, and then it gives you a tooltip, add to chat. So it focuses on that current or particular query at that exact time. Key takeaways. Don't work feature by feature blindly. Don't start fresh each day. Build up your context. Don't restart it. See, each session has to build on the last. Your Claude MD file evolves. Your feature doc grows. The AI gets smarter about your project over time. But context is only half the battle. You also need to structure how you work with AI. So you started with tools, you're going through context, and now we need structure. Structure before speed. The fastest way to build anything, carpentry, buildings, cars, is always to plan fast. Again, by a show of hands. What have I told AI? Build me a notification system, and that's it. No, not in the room. Guys, man, you guys are better than I am. Okay, yeah. I'm not hiring, but if I was, you guys will be there. So when I started, I always prompted AI to build me a user identification system. And then I just sit there and watch 500 lines of code, just generating until it runs out of context. And then I have to constantly say continue. And then all of a sudden, Casa tells me you're run out of tokens for the day, that's it. So imagine you've done that, and then now you're sitting there with auto-generated code, like thousands of lines, and you have no idea what does it or how it does it. You get code fast, yes, but you lose control. You can't debug it, you can't extend it, you are effectively stuck. So before writing any code, let the AI write a plan. This is like asking for a roadmap before a road trip. I call it the four-step loop. One, review. Review the plan. Sorry, plan. Then review the plan. Questions. Push back. For example, tell the AI, give me a plan for user authentication, the file that we will update or create, libraries that we will use, security considerations. Then one thing I always do to every prompt, I add another layer. Ask clarifying questions, audit your responses. One thing I've noticed, if I tell it to ask clarifying questions, if there's anything that I haven't told it, it will ask on the context window. And now I can be able to review and update at will. That's plan. Two, validate. For example, why did you choose JWT? Why not sessions? AI explains its reasoning. Then, if you're using Superbase for all, tell it, we already use Superbase in this application, which has built-in all. Let's use that instead. The AI is not always right. You know your project. Treat it like a, for lack of a better word, junior developer. Smart but needs direction. I know I needed to use that. I'm sorry. Sorry. Then three, implement step by step. Acknowledge what it does before the next step. So whenever I'm planning, I always plan with a PRD document in mind, which is technically created by AI. Then I ask it to create a project tracker document. So the project tracker document has a planning status field that is either not started, completed, or in progress. So it tracks the status per phase. So I tell it, we need to do a step-by-step approach, and for each step, ensure that you have a not started, completed, or in progress. Then after every implementation, update the project tracker, update the status. Ensure you're not doing everything in one shot. For example, start with step one. Create the odd schema in Superbase. Show me the SQL. AI reviews the SQL, and then it provides the details, the generated code. Approve. Then next question, next step, create the sign-up API route. Always incremental instead of doing everything in one shot. Then finally, review. Why are we reviewing? We're reviewing for security issues, bottlenecks, edge cases. Anything that can seem very weird, anything that probably has made it hallucinate. Then finally, repeat the pattern. Plan, validate, implement, review. Now, there is a growing trend towards AI agents, and these agents operate autonomously. However, just a word of caution, these agents typically consume a lot of tokens, and they are very challenging to debug. Structured workflows like what we just discussed generally prove to be more efficient. But again, we are leaning more into an agentic kind of world. But here's the deal. Workflows are ideal for tackling new features, implementing complex logic, and handling anything mission critical. They are structured, and we have greater control and predictability. Now, AI agents are best reserved for repetitive tasks. These are tasks that should be defined, properly defined, and executed. For example, add crude endpoints for this entity. This is something that can be very well defined and it's predictable. It's a suitable task for an agent. Another agent is create an agent that can do security review, create an agent that does code review, where autonomy saves time. So one of the things that I've seen many guys doing online is they have ChatGPT 5 create the code, then Sonnet 4.5 review the code. That way you have a nice audit. You have different agents with different models trying to figure out exactly what is happening. Again, word of caution for senior devs or leads. Don't let AI refactor everything to be cleaner. Sometimes you just want to refactor for what's it called? To handle edge cases, like you want this to even be faster, like 0.01 seconds. Don't really do everything. Don't refactor everything to be cleaner. That's how you kind of create technical debt. Only refactor with a specific goal in mind. So just a recap, guys. Plan, validate, implement incrementally, review, validate, then continue the implementation process. The temptation to jump straight to code is strong. Resist it. 5 minutes of planning saves hours of debugging and refactoring later. Key takeaway, structure works, but it works even better when you have rules. Which brings us to rules. This is one of the most important things in AI development. You not only define the rules, but rules that scale. Not just code style, but decision-making frameworks. See, rules govern how our AI will respond to inputs. It provides the inputs, the more it provides, it will respond to our inputs to provide excellent outputs. It's the clearest way to avoid bad code or any hallucinations. Think of rules as an extension to yourself. How you think, how you write, and how you internalize code. Think of it as a mini you. The way you have learned how to write code is the way you want your AI to write the code. And the one way to do this is with the rules. If there are any parents in the building, I'm thinking, the way you want your children to come up, the instructions you give to them, is the way you want AI to work, to build on those instructions and rules. 2 categories of rules. There's the process rules, which are universal. They cut across all projects. Each IDE or CLI has its own way of defining these rules. They work for any language or any framework, regardless of what IDE agent you're using. Some example of the rules that we use universally: plan before prompting. Always ask for a plan before implementation. Why? It prevents scope creep and catches issues, and especially architectural issues. Rule 2, an example: context over cleverness. This is something I have battled for quite a long time. Clear context beats clever prompts any day, anytime. How many have always said, let me see the developers who are my friend, make this code better? Now, yeah, it happens. You've been in that point. You're like, make this code better. How does it make it better? Say or prompt, refactor this to either use React server components, to either use TypeScript. Give it as much context as possible. You see, now I'm speaking to the choir, like I'm preaching. Cool. Validate AI outputs. As mentioned, some people use different models to validate their outputs. One thing you have to know, human oversight is non-negotiable. AI can hallucinate. Always review before shipping. Another rule I like is ship small pieces frequently. Incremental is better than big bang any day of the week. Why? It's easier to debug and easier to understand. So some of these rules you can define. Some of these rules you can actually you have them inside the CASA or whatever IDE uses. 2, rule type 2, technical rule. Now you get really deep into the framework. For example, prefer function over classes, server components by default, and one of my favorites this year, type safe everything if I'm working on web applications. For beginners, begin by selecting 2 or 3 foundational rules directly from your framework's best practices, then integrate them into your Claude file. CASA has CASA rules, and establish a configuration baseline. For advanced users, continuously evolve your rule set by documenting team-specific patterns. Each time you identify and correct an AI-generated mistake, formalize it into a new rule to proactively prevent similar issues in the future. One of the things I like about CASA is whenever I correct it, it has a nice notification system. So you find that it already auto-generates the rule. This user prefers functions over classes, and then it adds it to the rules. So check out CASA rules from casa.com. A favorite of mine is the CASA directory. It has rules for different code bases: Laravel, JavaScript, Tailwind. You have the prompt here. This is really a nice tool for working with AI agents. Please check it out. Homework. So takeaway: document your patterns. Rules are extension of how you think. write and internalize the code. Rules act as guardrails. They force AI into a well-defined box. That way it doesn't deviate, it does not hallucinate. Key takeaway, rules transform AI from just a helpful assistant to a team member who knows how you work. Now, this is where we get really powerful. Get ready, get ready. How, when you connect your AI to external tools, and that is the model context protocol. One of my favorite things about working with AI. They interact with your entire dev stack. Think of it like like Lego blocks for AI. Each block gives AI a new ability. Many of us have watched Power Rangers when they morph and then they start, one comes and then it comes up the hand and then the leg. Okay, yes, thank you for those who have watched. I feel like I'm going down a rabbit hole. So AI gives new abilities like MCPs gives new ability like reading database, controlling browsers, one of my favorites, fetching from APIs, all this nice fancy stuff. See, the MCP is a standard protocol that lets AI tools connect to external systems through standardized servers, like a USB-C that works for different hardware. One standard, many devices. Before the onset of MCP, I used to copy from the database, paste it into the chart, and then there's a whole lot of errors. I couldn't be able to use an IDE with my database in a way that I wanted, in a normal, user-friendly language way. With an MCP, I can read directly to the database, write queries, automate. It's very reliable. Now, I'm not sure we can say this, but I just wanted to do a quick overview of an example of a flow. If I've created a README file or updated it to a set of instructions, I tell the AI agent, whatever it is, I will enhance this README, push it, commit, and push it to GitHub. The AI reads the file, which is really cool, analyzes the changes, then executes via the MCP. Getting it adds, it commits, finally pushes to GitHub. Why is this so powerful? One instruction, commit and push, that's it. All Git commands are executed. Two, it's context aware. It knows how you've updated, what you've updated, creates a meaningful commit message. Three, full setup, handles init, remote, pushes automatically. And my favorite, zero terminal. No command line needed. You don't have to write anything. Just commit and push this. Now, I wanted to go deep into the database, probably another demo, but due to time, I'll just rush through. One thing to note is MCP adoption is exploding. We have so many MCPs for different dev tools. How many people have interacted with the Figma MCP? Nice. There's Stripe, Docker. We've been joking the other day with a friend from Safaricom that we need an MCP for Daraja, right? Yes. I mean. Anyway, MPs are now connecting GitHub issues with Slack, with Jira, with Casa. Complete workflow process. It's becoming the standard for the industry, sort of like how APIs have been working. Early adoption can be very significant. And this is a powerful technology that is transforming how we work with AI. Now, how do we start with MCPs? For beginners, start with a simple one, like file system MCP. And these are now readily available in Casa or Claude. They weren't. Integrate one external MCP, master each MCP incrementally before adding others. For advanced users, use some of the commands that are provided. Thoroughly test MCPs in isolated environments. Prioritize security. They access real-world data. Need careful oversight. Monitor token usage diligently. They can be very resource intensive and impact operational costs. Now, as you can tell, I'm a very big nerd. With great power comes great responsibility. How do we use correctly the power that has been entrusted to us? Use MCPs safely. Only install trusted MCPs. Use read mode only whenever possible. Never connect to a production database. You can, but be very, very careful. Review permission regularly and audit MCPs monthly to see if they're doing the one thing that you want them to do. Now, let's recap. Choose AI fast tools. It has to be, that's not an afterthought. It has to be the first thing that you think about. Context is king. Structure before script. Plan, validate, implement, review. Define rules that scale not only individually, but as a team. And then use NCPs to connect your entire AI dev stack. In case you've been floating through this whole thing or you've been looking at IG or Twitter, um, this is one thing in which take home. AI tools aren't magic. I always thought they were, but they aren't. They are amplifiers. They amplify good workflows and amplify bad workflows. If you have a messy workflow, AI will make it messier. If you have structure, context, and rules, AI becomes a force multiplier. If you forget everything else, remember this: AI tools are only as good as your workflow. Don't chase the newest model. Don't collect tools. Build a system. Like Master Yoda, don't fight the force. Embrace the force. Embrace the AI force. Learn from the force. Be one with the force. That is the AI. These five rules are not final. Yours will always look different than mine. That's the point. Find your vibe, build your playbook. That's the AI way. Thank you. I'm not sure if there are any questions, so I'll just hand it over. But if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. This is quickly before I get off. This is like my workflow per se, something that I was working on. Notice the PRD documents, the Claude MD file, project review, and the project tracker. That is how it looks like. So thank you so much. Feel free to reach out on my website, victorwonder.com, on Twitter, Instagram, at Victor Wender. See you at the next one. Thank you. Sounds good.
Hi everyone. Any queries on the stuff? Such a note,
Hi everyone. I don't know this so start your so I study the video so that I just about the section and I so so before we can get started, I want to how you any sort of creation. Any. That is what 1 minute or 1 person. Oh, nice. No problem. And today, so when I got the chance to submit this section, I was thinking about the best way to across all levels of beginners and really talk about how you can build their solutions with the app and intelligence because most of my work looks like and I thought this was actually to show you how the tool is together in order to be able to use a good resolution from a simple auto generation request on YouTube. An agent. We won't get to that point of seeing the agent today. But what I'm going to show you today is going to be now for data and now to do a program of agents. Okay. So my name is Minority. So I'm a good developer expert for Angular. I know. Long audience. I hope to use my especially experience with data for about 6 years. So not definitely important. I'm also the co-founder and head of technology for startups. We build solutions for everyone to do community. I think most of you have had building their series with managed to enroll for the next 8 weeks. In fact, the contract currently, I think we did last week this one, now we're going to do. So enough with me. So let's get to the content of the business page. So the business agenda is because I want to get this done in almost 20 without batching but here's how easy it is to do some of these things. Because one of the things that most people can think about is using AI solutions to do extra things. But you don't. As long as you are a software developer, you have experience in coding, it's not about like everything with the As long as you're not talking about using the whole position model, okay? So today we are going to talk about what changes. We're going to talk about which model is the primary. And then we are going to see the intersection between the two using let's say some So so far so good?
Yeah.
Any questions before you get started? Okay, so I think a few years back, Google the service. So for a lot of time, people always talk about cybersecurity, but this year was good and different projects to run more part of and this is the business in the sense of part of cyber. But then people view by the service team for this to be a framework, just as one for building AI. So we had something, we had that open supported for doing this, and then we go to this system. And the process was simple. Just as next year, so just as any other framework, so why the started way of building AI solutions, regardless of the model we're integrating. So one of the biggest issue with, let's say, you order to use Code today or Gemini or GPT, when you always have to go in there and in their API and try to figure out how to do it in their application. And those APIs are not consistent because different developers have different differences on how to do this. The problem is, tomorrow you won't have any plan to go. Gemini is too expensive for me, and I want to switch to not or not good enough. That happens. Then you have to go and run your application based on the other APIs. The whole your application layer remains the same, and then you're using the concept of value. And this is where the models are provided. So if you put tomorrow, you won't have a dependent. No, I want to use a particular model. You have to use everything else in your application. So you don't have to think about the model. All you have to think about is the code, how your application is supposed to work, and then make the final system adopt it. And that's the basic idea behind coding. So as you can see from this, so you have your application code to application or what your solution is. So this is where you are using process by data. I need to access to do that, I need to for it whatever class and state, and then we fix the window. And then what else are the other? So that now then you will have to take whatever your application is built, need for that model they use it, and then allow it so that you're able to fix some processes. So far so good. So I talked about patterns. So one of the by default they use Jenkins. Everything in Jenkins is a pattern or model, whether it's Google, which is offering Google AI and then a model, or whether it's OpenAI model. Whatever you're going to use, whatever model you're going to use, is always going to be planning. On top of that, we have the frameworks and the frameworks are all about receiving data from different data. So let's say you wanted to do graph or you wanted to do to fetch data from a custom database. All you have to do is use a custom and if you wanted to give exact data so that you can do a fetch, all you have to do is and the last one is you have more time for now I don't want to provide us for this second. But again, the docs, you can jump against it. There has a lot of materials allows all the kinds of struggling to the ecosystem, which are part package, and then we have so far so good. If you have a question, just raise your hand and we're going to stop. So this is a good example of how you can use this with GPT. So this is a plugin from OpenAI. Support has a plugin for code, everything included it, and I think what is the code? XAI by Twitter? So for today's session, I want to tell you a little bit of a demo, but before I tell you that demo, I want to tell you how we do this within LinkedIn, and then how you allow the application to experience. Within our two slides, we're going to be seeing a demo, and then you can see the code for that looks, right? From there, so the first thing you need to do when you're using Gemini is just API, and this is just for AI studio. The concept are very, I would not call it general, but usable features, especially if you're not using, as long as you're not using the full model. You're using Bash, and using that, it's very general. And then within your code, so remember, every is a bucket code. So you are going to run that. So the first is data you provide the plugin. And decide default model. So that whenever we invoke it, we know this is the model we're going to be using by default. So in this case, we're setting it to some type bash. But if I decide, okay, instead of like point back for this, I'm going to use a different model, you have that option. So this is the default model, we don't have to set it in. But if you don't set it in, after that, you invoke the model. We'll see in the next slide. And then that's it. So once you have the instance, so you know what is added, then you also have to do it for the end of the list. And you can work. This will be anywhere within your process. That's how to call that. So far, so good. So that's one of the text is what the data is going to get from. Again, so that you can be able to use the response and do that well. So I mentioned earlier that with Genesis, we have to use some kind. Use multimodal input. What multimodal input really means is that now instead of just passing print text and using when you saw the area in the game, we are passing in a text one and then passing a link. And this would be video, this would be audio as well, so that we are able to build the enhanced experience for the user so that it works on
You're testing now.
What else? Lights.
Yeah.
Okay. Now give me a prompt.
Fights are costly, not good.
Of edit of the two images. Let's see what happens. Going to the demo box. Okay, there are models of
Too much.
let me see if I'm just share. I want to get model from the okay. And then so buckets are the code is a little bit confused from mathematics, but the main it's interesting whenever when I'm not in a
Yes, it's a demo card. Demo card. Don't you? No, it's not. Yeah.
The moment right now. Oh, finally. So let's try. So let's start here. Now let me do this here.
Just describe it.
So you're supposed to be able to start with video. Let's see.
It also depends on the one. Yeah, mostly analysis.
Do mostly analysis, but that's by something actually pedestrian.
Or it is a different.
That's going to be even more crowded. Let me try something that I have had tested on. Let me, but the thing is, how it behaves is all part of the problem. So if the prompt is usually important to do something different, it's all going to be affected to that. Let's say I want to lose the support.
Grammar.
it's able to analyze the images and then break down, and then it's able to tell you why it pass back to what the image is passed, and then let's try something. Some of you may have come
Question. Does it depend on the model, not the way to read them, the analysis based on the model that we choose?
probably it's not the answer, but I think you can find that for depending on your style of doing things, one model works better for you compared to another because of how it's works. This is why I, for instance, for my kid, I hear a lot of people saying Gemini is good for coding. So my kid out of my I've got some people say that. I'll just give you an example. Or actually, another better example is GPT-5. It's better for coding, but that's not my thing. Every time I try to use it, 3 minutes, okay, let's go back to code. Yeah, so it all depends on like, your workflows and how you get things. So some models are like, they have like different kind of ways of doing it, and based on the style of asking you, a model will work. Sometimes they prefer a straight answer, and that's why you do it. Yeah. So in this case, I wanted to do this with giving it how fast, but I didn't want to do it. That's a really bad thing on that. And I have so many in Germany. Yeah, but okay, let's try a phone. Something confusing.
And orange. I can't see orange. Can't see orange.
That's the one. Oh, brilliant.
Can you figure it out? Oh, it's an analysis. Yeah, I thought it was one. Okay.
Yeah, so I think I know why doing that. I'm not going to do it.
That's probably the main problem.
Yeah, the main problem.
Yeah.
Analysis. Yeah. So if I, let's say, let's take this
Chef Alex.
on the speakers.
Yes. Yes. So, the creative director.
Okay, let's give a thought and few comments. I'm not sure if this is going to be one let's try that. What was the point of that's fine now. So just enough to start and pull up the content. I forgot to ask you how to I'm going to it's ignoring my phone. Anyway, I think the demo for this is like the front part. Yeah. So you need to basically go, especially when you're doing like AI solutions, you need to be able to calculate so what do you think is there are a lot of responsibilities for people applying to get the AI structure so that they can make more preventive tasks and so on. And your prompt needs to be visual and enough. Remember, I'm not starting out doing intensity. I came across this tutorial. I did at that point. I didn't understand what computing was by, for example, for some copy but barista. And it has like almost 1,000 pages for instructions for doing this. Do this, don't do this. At that point in time, I didn't understand what was going on the example of looking at, but I found that what I understood was why you needed to be so instructional in order for it to do a very specific what you want without doing what you don't want. So, and that's what I was going to do because sometimes there is some private data. You know these things. I think you have seen those passwords going out and by making people it's all about trying to get how to get malicious and so on. Does that make sense? So the code is simple. So in this case, there's the image uploaded as a form depends on what is not done. Probably it's a better way of doing it, but you have to. And then, so if no email is failed, have to put this one. And then this is where I now I call this a static version of now. Instead of using content, Genki has a way to pass in content. Here. But instead of that, I'm just and then attach to the and then a lot of examples everything else is on the custom program. With a few lines of code, you can be able to get data density in the system. How many minutes? Give me like 2 minutes. I'm done. Just a bit. And I think that's it.
I'm just about to ask about context. The way you have to maintain contact with the contact someone.
You have to maintain figure out how to do the contact. Yeah, so most big models are not contact carriers by default. So you have like this one way. I will not recommend if you're doing like a production, you will not recommend you get this one. And you have to do like a session using that is going to do that and have a passive content. But you need to basically make sure that you're calling the LLM passive similar to how the same way you track. You have to do that part aspect of it from your side and then pass it to the relevant information. Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to talk about prompts. We tried prompt detectors from the access. That was a way of testing the security. Right? Yes, like you say, analysis. The previous analysis. And
I haven't tried, but I'm probably going to. I'll find it like to have like Ramadan, the one that you can make the target. Yeah, you basically have to do like so many factors for it. It's like a challenge. Trying to make it do what you want it to do, rather than what you want it, what you know. Because sometimes those those are not valid.
I don't think Gen 2
Yeah.
but Gemini needs
Yeah, so it's the same way like you can get to OpenAI or Chrome, but the models then are costly. So you need some cash. Or unless you have your own model, you need something like an open model in Java, something like column. They have a planning column, just put your own model. Any other questions? Okay, I'll be to take some. If you have any questions, I'll be allowed to ask. Thank you.
For this room, our next session will be design thinking from full request to persona, as will be done by Zawadi. Then in the next room, we are going to be having evident cost of this and why apps should depend on people, not just them. So that will be done by Ken. So you can have it.
which tool is this one?
Yeah.
Persona is in this one.
Yeah.
Right. JavaScript. Python. Right, cool. But I'm sure most of you guys have heard this concept of sorry for that, guys. So anyway, I'm sure most guys have interacted with and installed, especially JavaScript developers, right? If you don't know JavaScript and you're more into like high-level coding, so mainly mostly work with kernel systems, and if you work with kernel, you know how big that thing is. It takes, if you don't have a very fast laptop, you spend hours as a to build, right? And as you're doing, as you're importing these dependencies, you know, we tend to look, okay, what am I importing into the project? What's the impact of it? Is it helping me? Is it just useless in my project? You know, so on, right? And as we're doing this in quotes, there are many factors that will make you just copy code and paste into your project. As I said earlier, you just want to you have to find the solution to your bug, right? And if you work in a very fast-paced company or organization, I'm sure you can encounter such a situation, right? Whereby you have pressure, sleepless nights, it's so bad, move on. Also, sometimes you just want to be experimental. You just want to see what this code does, right? Just copy it, see what it does, you move forward with your life. You know, every line of open source, or rather, every line of code that we write it's meant to do something, right? And it's written by us human beings, as developers. There's no machine that writes code. Even ChatGPT itself was written by human beings, right? And you know, as we write code, there's context behind it. There's a reason why we write this code. That's what we do design before we then start writing code. You have to understand, okay, I'm starting from here, this is the problem, I want to fix this problem, how do I fix it? This is the code for it, right? And as you do this, we want to do this in a manner that it basically doesn't make sense. Because maybe as you're presenting your code, sometimes if you're in a company that does, or rather, if you guys are very strict with your PRs, before matching your code, someone has to come in and look at it, right? So at that point, someone will ask, okay, what does this part do? If you just put your code for check, it's not a good thing sometimes. So back to the point, as developers, we have the sole responsibility of making sure that whatever we're working on, whatever we are writing, whatever we're putting to production makes sense to us and also the people that we work with in the company or not. And now the rest of that, the rest of copy pasting. So ChatGPT, all of us, right? Who doesn't do it? Probably no one at this point. And sometimes, as we are working with ChatGPT, as you know, the previous issue of the prompt gives the code there. Sometimes it works perfectly well, right? But along the way, as I was saying, challenges might be ones that are coming from that code that gave you. Who's the main person to blame? You can't just blame ChatGPT. You can't say the code is failing because of ChatGPT, right? So what do you do? Go back, look at the code, and get it right. And sometimes the thing with such methods of working is that you might find yourself along the way, maybe you've taken a dependency. Let me give you an example. Like, how many of us have worked with payments APIs? And there's a let's try. Okay, so for those who have not, it's okay, but I'm sure along the way, most of us who write code have worked with dependencies, and these dependencies are built by human beings. But sometimes they might not be the most optimal solution, right? And most of this can come from a couple of factors. One, people just abandon them, right? For example, I'm trying to think of one. Let's say you are trying to implement a payment solution in an organization or in a project or whatever, right? You go online, look for dependencies that will do that, but along the way you figure out this dependency. The last time this thing was updated was 2015. We are in 2025, that's 10 years back, right? So it might work, you might take it, put it in a project, run it, works, right? But then again, there are so many loopholes to that, security issues. Remember, this thing was written in 2015. So along the way, hackers have become smarter. They have figured out how to maneuver the dependency, hack it, and all of a sudden, they're in a mess, right? So things to consider when making such things are secure. When the dependency was recently updated, if personally, I would just say, if a dependency has not been touched, maybe in the past 6-8 months, then it's just like us avoid it because that just give you more bugs, right? Sometimes the people who are working on this project of dependency, they might just be tired. No one is funding them, no one is supporting them, or maybe they don't even have users. So they just gave up with it. But along the way you found it and not use it. So there are such factors that as you're picking a library or a dependency to work with, look into that. Hiya. So sometime last week, Twitter was very much on fire. There was this discussion of how AI will come, guys will lose their jobs. If you do websites, apparently nowadays you can just go to AI, tell it, hey, AI, ChatGPT, build from your website, and it will build for your website, right? You give it the full code, you check it, and we deploy it. Sometimes it can even deploy it for you, right? So I've lost the name. I don't want to leave out this discussion, but the point that this was trying to make is that AI will just come in and take all of our jobs, especially if you do websites as a source of income or as a job. But people tend to forget AI didn't just wake up and itself. It wasn't built by another AI or by quote unquote ghost. These things are built by human beings, and the whole point of AI is to mimic human behavior basically. And there's no human being who's perfect. We all mess up along the way, right? Same case with ChatGPT. You can give it a prompt, like hi ChatGPT. How many of you guys have ever given ChatGPT an image of yourself, telling it to maybe give a better image, right? Then it gives some very bad looking image. No, okay, but yeah, ChatGPT sometimes it's not the most accurate, but it mimics human behavior, right? Even when you talk to it, its responses, it's more like you're talking to a human being. And the thing with human beings, we are not perfect. None of us will probably ever be perfect. Same case with the systems we built. Up to now, some of like Instagram, WhatsApp, there are still developers who work on it, they fix bugs on it. And it's just part of working with systems, working with software, working with AI. You will always encounter bugs, right? So good news, you just are safe. Bad news is if you don't work with AI, then you might just have to get it done and get it wrong. So just to go back to this whole discussion, here's a point: AI might come to take our jobs, but as developers, we all understand that this thing was built by human beings. So regardless of what you say, you're just to be safe. Don't worry. As long as you know how to work with the AI. All right. So now, I give the example of you want to integrate a payment feature in your project. You want to integrate a Pesa, Visa, whatever one. And as you go online looking for projects or repositories to help you do this, you need to be very rapid. You need to look at this dependency on whether they charge it. First thing I see when I look at them is active commits. One of these things last updated. If it's more than 6 months, 8 months, okay, I'm being too strict there. Let me just say a year, but not more than a year really. If the last time this thing was touched is 2025, right? If the last time this thing was touched is 2020 during COVID times, then it might not be a good thing to take it, right? Also, sometimes governance, be very careful of the people who work on these dependencies, right? Sometimes you might think it's safe, but as you take it from, especially for like payments, people might put in systems into that dependency that will later on come and maybe mess up your whole project. Some of them can even take sensitive data from your app, leading to just components that you don't want to be part of. So be very keen on that. Look into the documentation, look into how other developers or other what they're saying about these dependencies, and from that you can make an informed decision, right? Yeah, also the other point was community activity. As I said, interact with other people, look into what other players have done with the dependencies, and just try to gauge if it's the right thing for you, right? So, you have finally found the perfect dependency to help you with your payment feature, right? But sometimes the people building them, they need your support. You need to show them that, hey man, whatever you're working on, I used it, and it makes sense in the app I was working on, and I'm grateful for it. Something as simple as just going to GitHub and putting a stamp the project might not really mean a lot to most people, but the person who worked on it, they feel appreciated. I mean, imagine you worked on a project, then some random person just comes and just tell you GitHub people. Personally, feel nice. I'm sure most of you will feel nice, right? Also, as you're using it in a project, you might stumble on an issue. Typical human behavior of the same is people just like to charge and abuse of row or geopolitical code, victim bad, right? What I would say is you can be a critic, but please be respectful. Remember, this person is doing this out of love. Just to ensure that as a community we have a working ecosystem, right? So if you identify an issue, if you have their email, or also sometimes you can pull a bit of data for it and just say that, hey, I found this issue, this is the fix for it, let's review it. And I think that's the best way to approach it. If you want, so Kitambo, for those of you who worked with the RGI, that's what I call it nowadays, right? My personal experience might be different from everyone. Kitambo, I think this job, they never even installed the best documentation. In fact, it's a very common sorry, but I think nowadays they do. So if you want with any dependency and if you're good at it and you have some free time, so what I say is kindly go online, write a whole article about it, put steps, proper steps to integrate it, and other guys also learn from that. And yeah, the last part, financial support. Yeah, I mean, if you are able to support someone financially, And if you use the product and you love it, let's invest in some small, it's not a must, but it goes a long way. Final remark on my end as I wind up. So someone wise once said, behind every line of code, that person, right? It's back the people and your code drive. So what I will say is every line of code that will be right, it's written by human being, right? And as we are teaching, as we're using the project, dependencies, let's remember that we are all human beings. Even ChatGPT was written by human beings. Sometimes it might not be the best, but as you're working with it, as a giving feedback, always remember that we are an ecosystem of developers, and any criticism is welcome as long as it's constructive, right? So yeah, my LinkedIn, Kenya Jumadari, you can follow me there. You can shoot me a text there. I'm usually active. I have a GitHub. Currently, I'm not very active there, but sometimes I also be very active with side projects. So if you're into mobile dev with Kotlin or anything Kotlin, I'm sure you can find some good resources in my GitHub. Cool. Questions? Jamani mwabo. What's up? All right. Anyway. Yes. I think I can give the mic to you, sir. Let me take the mic to you.
I'm just curious, just maybe yourself use copy paste. If you yourself use copy paste, if you use it, because the talk was about how you should not use it, how you use it to ensure that as a player.
So Titus here has asked me if I use copy paste, and if I use it, how do I use it safely? Right? So yes, I use copy paste shamelessly every time. Whenever I'm in a fix or whenever I find myself with a bug, I take the problem, copy it, put it in ChatGPT, find the solution there. Other sometimes I don't even read the solution. I just take it, put it in the code, run it, and move on, right? But at the back of my head, I need to be aware that as I'm doing this, I don't have to, or rather, I need to ensure that there is no security risk in my code. My code needs to be very safe, very readable, and just ensuring that whatever I'm working on works smoothly, especially for the users, right? So yes, I use copy paste, but at the back of my head, I need to also be very careful and sensitive with what I'm copying into my project, right? So I've answered it. Next slide, yes. This side. No? It's you. No question. No question. You guys are good. Cool. My contact information out there. If you have anything to talk about regarding mobile, copy paste, anything really, I'm very much active in LinkedIn. So yeah, something, and I thank you.
So yeah, thank you so much, Derek. Thanks, Sam. So next we are going to do like two interesting live talks. Thank you so much. Thanks, Sam. You have to achieve the money. So yeah, next we're going to, all of us are coming back here to do two very interesting lightning talks, 15 minutes each. And then after that, we shall be heading downstairs for lunch. So lunch will be served at the ground floor, unfortunately not here, but we still have, I think, some hot meals, water, anything if you need to move around, we shall always make sure facilitate that. But in the meantime, let's wait for the other group to finish up. So the first person to do the first lightning talk will be James, and then Simon Jerry. So let's wait for them, and then boom, we can all converge here, finish the 15-minute, the 30-minute sessions, or 15-minute session. Hey, sawa, leo mmelipata. Let's finish up the 2 15-minute sessions, and then from there we can proceed ground floor lunch. So give me a second. Otherwise, are you guys at least learning or having fun or anything? There are notebooks, there are pens, there are pieces of sweets all over. Just there are sweets to have fun. And then yeah. Announced, I guess, probably by the end of this week. No, the winner will be announced because again, the raffle is not managed by us. The raffle is managed by Cloudinary, so we shall announce the winner once the algorithm gives us a winner. So far, let's start with this. How many of us have actually so far researched what Cloudinary is? Come on, you guys just don't give. Come on, let's Cloudinary. Let's do the whole thing. Sorry, I'm trying to make use of around 5 minutes before this other session ends, so that we can all converge here. So yes, Tell us, what is Cloudinary? And yeah, use case, a funny use case.
Cloudinary is it's more like software as a service that offers file uploads, can handle your file uploads, file optimizations, and also can act as a content delivery network.
Interesting. So, how many of us basically, as developers, what do you guys use for files or images? Or you self-host or AWS like beasts? Yeah? The people who like the whole AWS thing. How many of us basically, what services do you use essentially for files and everything like that? Come on. What services do you use? You don't mind me asking. Use AWS. Oh, geez, yeah, they are. Any other person who uses different services aside from AWS? Oh, you guys self-host somewhere else. Cloud servers at home. I'm not nowadays it's so easy to start your own server in the house. Huh? All you need is just a strong internet connection and yeah, stable power and good strong hard drives. Good to go. So yeah, interesting solution. Anybody who's learned something fun today, anybody who's networked, anybody who's at least gotten I'll call you on Monday about a job. What are you guys talking to? What are you guys asking one another? Ask your neighbor again, are you hiring? They might be hiring because usually the next person who's hiring or somebody who's looking for an opportunity to join your startup might just be here. Who's hiring? At least somebody knows somebody who's hiring. You're hiring. Nice. Come, do you mind telling us what you're hiring for? Okay, should I use the microphone? Nice, look at that. An opportunity you would never have known until you asked.
Hi guys, my name is Segas. So I'm not the one directly hiring, but software dynamics is. We check software dynamics, looking for software then React frontend.
How many years of experience?
Years of experience. You just need to know your stuff. I don't care about it. Yeah. The money, not so much, but we'll get good enough to start. Yeah. On Monday, you could check their post on LinkedIn as well.
The power of asking your neighbor, are you hiring? Have you asked your neighbor, are you hiring? Some people are microphone shy. Who else? Internships or anything, usually. Opportunities just usually walk in a room, but it's always up to the people who actually tend to ask those questions that actually get those opportunities, as I say. So yeah, I have that thing, be shameless enough to ask somebody that I maybe they have. Let's go to the next game. Can you say that can fix us a Somebody has asked, by the way, somebody has just mentioned that it is never shameful to ask if you're hiring. So you keep that in mind and be shameless enough to always ask for those opportunities. That's principle, right? Don't be afraid, connect with people, network. Don't see the people you know, don't see the buddies. Yes, because the next opportunity might just be seated a row away from you. That is it for me. Let me go check out the other side so that we can finish this up. Stomachs are rumbling, water is here. Yes, notebooks are here, pens are here, talks are here. Take time to internalize. Oh, big shout out again for Platinum. And everybody who showed up today.
Hi. How are you feeling? Manilenga. Yeah, okay. So as we prepare for the next session, how are you the game inspect? Yeah, you. What have you learned from the past session? So many things. Anyway, I wanted to remind you about the culinary challenge. Who's on it? Who's doing the challenge? What's your name? Eh? Sean. Oh, your children. Sean, the almost new owner of a PS5 Castle Culinary. Clap for him in advance. Who else is doing the challenge? Who else is doing the challenge? Oh, what's your name? Kibet. There might be winner of our PS5. Clap for Kibet. Who else is doing the challenge? No one? You. What's your name? Davis. Oh, clap for Davis. They may or may not be the next winner of our PS5. Clap. Yeah, you're such a fun crowd. Wow, gosh, I'm having the time of my life.
We have James. Sam. And then Timothy. He and Brenda have called him Timothy. No, sorry. Simon James, sorry. You're next. So, after 15 minutes,
So we're going to have the amazing back-to-back sessions. Cindy, are you guys ready to learn? Okay, you are not so bored. Cindy, no one is bored. Stand up, kidogo, we warm up our joints before James gets started. Kilam too. If you can't, be on your feet. Yeah, for those coming in, just find out. There's space here at the front. There's space here. There's enough space for everyone. So we're going to just like stretch our arms and our legs. Sawa. Yeah, I didn't have an exercise plan. So exactly. Let's do what's your name? Victor. Hey, kuna Victor's wengi. Who else is called Victor? Ah, she's called Victor. But then, like, you know, telling kids that parents are like, we have to name our kids after this Victor person. Yeah. I also found out, by the way, that I was named because of Cindy Crawford. Like, the parents named me Cindy because of Cindy Crawford. Anyway, Victor, who else is called Victor? If you're called Victor, put your family. Now, quite a so you're called Stahi, Rosafi. Yeah, I actually have a gift for the Victors in their room. You can come. Victoria. Okay, who wishes they were called Victor?
Thank you very much. Such a good name.
Yeah, come here.
So we'll do a quick exercise. We'll try and spell coconut. Okay, you can use AI. So it's simple. It starts C. How many know how to spell C? Yeah, you need to like stretch. So C, and then O, All right, cool. Then C will turn to the other side. I, yes. Then N is. Oh, there's another. Oh, all right. A is hallucinating. Also, alleviate. All right, check. I'm using the wrong model. So we start again, right? So C. All right. Then O. All right. Me. AI in a lot. C. And then O. Okay, context simulation. So then I'll go ahead and continue. And then U, and then T. All right, we'll do it quite faster now. Start to me as sonnet 4.5. All right, 3, 2, 1, C. Then, kuna tukotoka kwa GPT-1.
Thank you. Down is actually a Victor, right? Clap for Victor. Yeah, Victor, I have your prize. Enjoy the session and sawa kuuliza maswali to learn something new.
Hello everyone, I hope you are all having a good day. My name is James, I'm a software engineer and AI engineer as well. So, how many of you are building agents? Nice. How many have agents in production? Like you have an agent that is running in production? Not yet. Okay. So today I'm here to talk about one of the main blockers of building agents. So in 2024, have I introduced myself? Okay. I'm James. I'm a software engineer. I do AI. I also lead the LangChain community Kenya. Yeah, so that's about me. So in 2024, what is happening? In 2024, LangChain did a survey of agent builders just to assess what were the main blockers when shipping agents. And one of the main blocker was the quality when shipping agents, moving from development to deployment. So that is what I'll be speaking about today. And so to address this issue, most of the agent builders have tried to come up with a technique just to reduce the gap between when you're developing the agent and taking the agent to production. And that is eval-driven development. So what is eval-driven development? Eval is when you're evaluating your agent just to make sure that you are climbing that ladder of performance, and any updates that you do on your agent is not downgrading the performance, but you are increasing. So I like to think about eval as a continuous journey. It is not a one thing, like you do it on when developing the agent, then you stop there. It is a continuous thing. So you keep on doing it from when you are designing your app and when the app is in production. So there are three types of evals. So we have the offline eval, we have the online eval, and we have in the loop eval. So I'm going to start with the offline eval. When most of us hear about evaluating agent, this is what most of us think about. I don't know what is happening with this. Okay. Yeah, if you have another dongle, maybe you can help. Yeah, a bit down, it's okay. So I was talking about the different types of eval that we have. One of them is offline eval, then we have online, then we have in the loop eval. So we are going to start with the offline eval, and this is what we most think about when you hear about evaluating an agent. So what is an offline eval? An offline evaluation is a type of evaluation where you create a static data set. Let's say, for example, I'm an agent builder, I'm building a simple chatbot. I want to evaluate whether changing the prompt or changing the base model is increasing the performance or degrading. So I can create a data set of, let's say, for example, 10 examples. Then as I switch between this model, I evaluate my agent against that data set. So that's what we call evaluation. So the key thing here is that we are using a static data set. And sorry?
Go too high for the mountain higher. So not going to go too high for output.
Yeah, so we have talked about offline eval. So offline eval helps you assess the performance of your agent when you are designing the agent and when doing your development. Then we have an online eval. One thing with the offline eval is that the static data that you're using is imperfect. Why? Because you are the only one who is interacting with the agent. When you give the agent to 2 or 3 users, you get to find that they're interacting with the agent in a different way. So that's why now we have the online eval. The difference between the offline eval and the online eval is that for the online eval, your app is in production. As users are using the app, there's some data that is streaming back to now the agent. Maybe you're saving the chat somewhere. You can take a subset of this data set and save them into your data set, and then evaluate the agent on this data set, and now assess the performance. Are the changes that we are making, either the agent, is it improving or are we degrading? So that's the online eval. So these are the 2 main types of eval, and when most people talk about eval and evaluating both in when developing the agent and when in production, these are the two common ones. But there is also another type of evaluation that we call in the loop. So what in the loop means is, as the agent is running, for example, in this case, you can see from this I'm receiving some documents. This is just an example. I'm receiving some documents, grading them, then assessing whether there is a relevant retrieval, then moving to the next steps. So in the loop evaluation is when, for example, you assess whether the agent has hallucinated. And if the agent has hallucinated, now you can take that input, feed it back to the agent, and now the agent reasons with based on how you have instructed the agent, reason with that output, and maybe now increase the quality of the response. So one advantage with this type of response is you find that the quality of the response improves. That is one, and also you this type of eval also blocks bad responses. But there is one downside. So adding in the log eval, for example, is an evaluation here that is assessing whether this agent is hallucinating. This means we have added some latency and more, and that means more time and more cost because we are using an LLM. But with the current rise of background agents, there's some agents that are called wrong learning agents. We have ambient agents. Now this is where this type of eval shines. For example, I know most of you are using Casa, you're using Mesa, Codex. These are type of agents that you can give it a request. Then it tends to work on the background, maybe 3 minutes, 1 hour, 24 hours, then give you the response. So this way now you can use this kind of evaluation. On to the next. So for the 3 types of eval, there are 2 critical parts, or 2 very important things that you must have for you to do evaluation and to evaluate your agent, and that is the data and the evaluators. So for example, for the offline eval, we have the static data, maybe the 10 examples. For the online eval, we have the data that is streaming back to your app, taking a subset of that data, adding it to your data set, then evaluating your data on your agent on that data set. Then for the in-loop eval, you can think of it as a production data because now the app is the type of eval that you do when the app is running. That means the data is being produced, you are taking that, feeding it into your data set, so that now when the agent is reasoning, the next time it finds such an issue, it is able to know how to respond. So that's for the data. Then we have the evaluators. So the evaluators is what now you want to assess. Let's say, for example, conciseness, correctness, and some others. You can have as many as you want. So those are the 2 critical parts of when building the evaluation pipeline. So, now the major question is, how do I build this data set? And how do I manage my evaluators? So LangChain, they have a product called LangSmith. So LangSmith is an observability tool. So we are going to see how we can use LangSmith, or how LangSmith can help us generate this data, and also how it can help with the evaluators. So on the data side, as I have said, LangSmith is a tracing tool. It helps you track the input and the output of the agent, and not only the input and the output, but the entire agent trajectory. For example, you can see for this I was building a deep research agent. You can see this the entire trajectory of the agent, and this was the input, and this ran, and some output. So how can LangSmith help us to build this data? So they have made it very simple. At the far end, you can see there's an add button. So once I'm satisfied with this, let's say for example, I'm making some changes. I change my prompt. Then I'm satisfied with this current track. So I'm comfortable that I can add this trace to my data set, then use it to now evaluate the agent. You just click on the add button, add to data set, then we're done. That is one entry into your data set. So the way I like to think about eval is create evals that will create observability. Why? So if I go back to this page, I can only add, let's say for example, I'm satisfied with the current chart and the current trace. That is when I can add it to the dataset. That means great eval start with great observability. I have to be sure with the current chart so that I add it to the dataset. So that's for the dataset. Then we have the evaluators. So the evaluators, this is what you want to evaluate your agent. Let's say, for example, conciseness, correctness, and other stuff. So how can Landsmith help with this? But before we see how Landsmith can help with this, there are different types of evaluators. So one of them is called eval. This is, let's say, for example, you are writing some tests. I'm testing function A to should take parameter A and B, add them, for example, 2 plus 2, I should get 4. Direct, simple, they are cheap. But now, when dealing with the natural language, now it becomes a bit hectic. So over the last couple of months, we have seen something popping using LLM as a judge. This is where now you can take the input of your agent, the output of your agent, then use an LLM to assess whether the agent is behaving the way you intend. To get up to that point. Then there is also another type of evaluator that is human annotation. So let's say you're building an app. After the response, you can allow your users to react, maybe thumbs up, thumbs down. Then take those reactions with the response and the input that the user has given, feed them into Landsmith, transfer that into your data set, then use that to evaluate your agent. So how can Landsmith help us with this? If you go back to where you're creating, you can see at the far, at the top here, you can see data in experiment. So when I'm creating my data set and I already have some experiments, if you are a no-code developer, you can easily add your own evaluators or select some pre-built evaluators. They also provide SDK where you can programmatically create your own evaluations. So that's it for evaluation. And then I'm going to stop at that point. So in case you have any question.
How costly is that whole process? And do you need to use like models like ChatGPT 5 or something, or can you use open source models as well?
Okay, great question. The entire process is not a cheap process because now you're using an LLM to evaluate. That means it's kind of you're building another agent, like multiple agents, so it is expensive. The other thing is, yes, you can use an open source model if you want. You can use the premium models if you want. It depends on how you want it. Have I answered the question?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Is it possible to get Landsmith for ChatGPT 5?
Yeah. Any other question? Yes.
When you pick an offline approach, how big are the models?
When you take an offline? Okay. So when doing the offline eval, it doesn't mean that it is fully offline, but this means that you're using static data sets. Static data set, not the data that is being streamed from your app back to, yeah. Yes?
I think I floated so much through your question. So just to clarify, what's the use case for this, and what's the difference between this RAG?
Good question. So the difference between this and building a normal agent is, I have a simple RAG pipeline, retrieving documents, assessing, respond to the question. But once I take that up to production, how are you assessing the performance to ensure that if Anthropic have a new model, you want to hook that model into production, but you don't know how it will perform. Will it downgrade our app, or will it increase the performance of our app? Okay, thank you. Any other question? Yes?
What's your take on language? You check, you measure the matrix when you use language prompts enhancement.
Language. I have heard of language, but I have not used it, so I'm not conversant with it. So yeah. Last question. Okay, thank you. If no other question, you can, if you want to reach me, you can use my Twitter username. You can also scan the QR code to my website where you can find my contacts and we can interact more.
Thank you so much.
Okay, the first speaker talked about MCP a lot, and you mentioned about building an M-Pesa MCP. So there is something I have been working on. I'm calling it Payling. Yeah, Payling. So Payling is an MCP server that's consolidate multiple payment providers in Kenya. And so currently I'm working on M-Pesa integration. The code is fully open source. You can make your contribution to a PR. I will be ready to review them. And I'm looking forward to integrating other payment providers in Kenya, for example, Airtel, KCB, Equity, and all that. So yeah, you can I don't know, take a picture and maybe we can have a talk after this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's welcome the last session to lunch.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to try and keep it short, but sweet. So my name is Simon. I'm a software engineer, and what I like doing is running meetups around Bitcoin. And today we're gonna see like how can we, as UI experts, UX designers, contribute to this new ecosystem. So how many of you have heard of Bitcoin before? Awesome. This will make my work easier. I'm seeing a majority. So how many of you have wondered, like, how can I earn or contribute to Bitcoin? So I know Kenya in the past, like for most people or for most devs, you just mentioned Bitcoin, their mind just shuts out. So today I'm gonna try and make it more lucrative. So why Bitcoin, or why now? So we know Bitcoin is a global enterprise, and then it's using the latest technologies, but more so, it's bringing freedom to the African space, whereby it allows you to break the cross-border currency limitation that we as Africans face. So my goal here is to help you be part of this revolution. the future of finance. So that's Bitcoin. Then to the next one. So for most skill sets, most of you are you already have the skills. So it's a matter of now directing those skills into actually tangible and visible work. So most of Bitcoin UIs, they use React. So we have Bitcoin wallets, Lightning Network, then Explorers, and lastly, other apps. So in the house, I think we have Bitika and Tango. So these are some of the Kenyan products, and they leverage React on their front ends. So the career path. So we have so many Bitcoin companies. So you can either decide to be hired as a front-end expert or a UI UX, or you decide to go open source. So for open source, we have a lot of Bitcoin open source projects. From wallets like Blue Wallet, we have the Bitcoin developer kit and the Lightning developer kit. So these are just highlights. I'm just going through them. Also, we have companies that hire. So we have River, we have Block, Unchained, Spiral, which I'll mention later on, and Blockstream. So the thing is, Bitcoin is fully developed on the back end. But now when it comes to the user, you guys deal with the user. Like, how does the user perceive a transaction? How does the user differentiate between their name and a Bitcoin address? Like, how do we present all these complex math and algos into something manageable? So that's where the UX team comes in. So basically, most of you are already on this category. So you're already good in React, TypeScript, Next.js, Tailwind. And then on the Bitcoin side, what you need to know is Bitcoin Core RPC. I'm sure a majority of you have worked with RPC. REST APIs. So a lot of the Bitcoin coding is those two. So you either decide to use the RPC calls or a REST API, or you consume a REST API. So the learning path, so it's quite simple. So the way you read like most of this documentation, it's similar to this. So the best way to start is you read Mastering Bitcoin. So that's the basis. Anyone, even if you're not technical, like it helps you to understand what is Bitcoin from scratch to implementation. And then the next one is you can download a Bitcoin wallet or check the Explorer. So one example is mempool.space. You can go and see how well they're using the React components, and maybe it can inspire you. You can see an issue there. So the beauty about Bitcoin being open source, if you detect like a dashboard or a website isn't adhering to the normal practices, so you just go to their GitHub, open an issue, and screenshot whatever you saw as an issue. And then from there, maintainers will easily guide you on how to go about it. And then you can either build or go straight up to contributing to open source. And then lastly, you join a community. So as for me, I run BitDev Nairobi. We meet once every month, the last Saturday of the month. So that's where we have most devs attending. You can ask questions about funding, about projects. We always have people looking for UX and UI designers. So it's a good opportunity also to have your skill and get paid in Bitcoin. So that's the goal. So you're turning your pixels into sats. So sats is a denomination of Bitcoin. So for project ideas, so this is for someone who wants to start out. You can build a price tracker. You can do an intermediate, so Lightning invoices. So Lightning invoice is basically like a QR, like the ones you see there. So this allows the user to scan and pay. So that's a lightning inverter. And then for advanced, we have people who run nodes. So you might want them to visualize like how many nodes are connected to my node. Or if they are node runners, you want them to know like how is their liquidity balancing. So if you can easily render that and help them to visualize better, you're improving their day-to-day workflow. Then essentials. So we have the learning resources. So mastering Bitcoin is programming Bitcoin. There's chain code labs. So if you go to Google and type chain code labs seminars, they really have some good series. So whether you want to focus on the Bitcoin backend or Lightning, so they have like 2 series. So you can easily follow and it's free. So you can self-pace yourself. Then for communities, you can join the local Bitcoin meetings, you can join the online ones, and you can join even Lightning Hacker Telegram. For development, so most of you won't really focus on the backend, so you want like endpoints. So the best endpoints to use is Bitcoin Developer Kit, is the Lightning Development Kit, and Bitcoin.js. So this can easily bootstrap an application on top of them without having to sweat. And then lastly, some of you will ask like, how do I get paid to work on Bitcoin? Or does Bitcoin pay for me to work on projects? So we have institutions that have seen that gap and they are filling it. So these institutions, they give you a grant to become a full-time Bitcoin contributor. So the first one is OpenSats. Just the other day, they released a list of names of people who are the new grantees and projects that are building on Bitcoin. We have HRF, so that's the Human Rights Foundation. We have Spiral by Block. So if you're on X, okay, the previous one at Jack Dorsey. So it's run by a company funds that. And then lastly, we have BitTrust. So BitTrust is a program that's trying to bring Bitcoin into the global south. So if you've heard of BitTrust programs, so they run like 3 pathways in a year, participate in that, and through them they can easily, so they have a starter grant. You work for like 6 months. Once they see you're fit to continue on the project, they can fund you on the long term. So that's on grants. So the best way to attract these grants is make sure you build in public, contribute to existing projects, and share your work. Like, don't be shy. So if you fix a bug on Blue Wallet, shout about it on X or LinkedIn. You never know who's watching. So the more you talk about it, or you saw an issue with maybe Fedi, so you're using a wallet and you saw like, why don't you improve this button to do a specific task? So if you fix that and it's matched, you're still building your proof of work. So then lastly, like why this matters beyond the tech. So we have like 1.7 billion people who are unbanked. And the goal is to bring about onboarding them into the economic times. So for us, Kenya, we are privileged, we have M-Pesa. So in some nations, if you're unbanked, you're unbanked. Like, even getting a mobile money connection is hard. So, but with Bitcoin, anyone can own it without the need for a third party, and you control your funds. It's basically be your own bank. And then the second one, you're building on censorship-resistant tools. So even the government can't stop it. Bitcoin has been running for the past 16 years, and it's the most hacked on system. So on a daily basis, hacking on it, and it has been stable throughout. We've never had like a shutdown at any one point. So you building on top of such technology, you're also empowering your users into sovereignty. And then lastly, work on meaningful problems, not other social media apps. Like build something that's directly enabling your community. So it's your turn. So the B is for Bitcoin, the Bolt is for Lightning, the Lightning Network. So build with purpose, have a global impact, and shape the future. So let's build the future of money together. You can contact me at BigDevsNBO in case you want to chat more. Thank you. I don't know if you have questions.
You mentioned getting funded. Who's funding you? It's a true selling. Is it other organizations that are well?
So the funding is by Bitcoin companies. So they put out grants to help like open source developers, because if you're an open source developer helping maintain Bitcoin security through your contributions, you're helping this company to have secure systems. So they find it as a good, as giving back to the community by giving grants. Any other question?
Question is around, for example, I believe that the kind of evidence we get is in Bitcoin.
Yes, in Bitcoin.
How is the ecosystem, for example, around if I have sort of one and if everyone has to pay, then I need to give it.
Okay, you can switch. So in Kenya, we are privileged to have applications like Tando. So Tando helps you to spend your Bitcoin without even leaving the Bitcoin. So let me see if I can pull up our. Okay, just do tando.me. So the way it works, when you're using Tando, it prompts you to your wallet. So from your wallet, it deducts the amount of Bitcoin you want to spend. So if you want to spend 50K, it will prompt sats or Bitcoin worth 50K to your wallet. And then to whoever you're sending, whether it's a pay bill, whether it's a mobile number, they receive M-Pesa. Or you can even send to your bank account through the pay bills. So you're paying, like you can easily live on Bitcoin in Kenya without having to touch fiat at any point. I think my time is done. Last question, maybe you can chat after. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I believe we are all having fun. We've come to the bit where I was telling you lunch. So we have two exits, exit number 1, exit number 2. If you use exit number 2, the restaurant will be directly to your right. The meals are fully self-service. If you use exit number 1 here, during your routes in Shika, so we'll figure it out together. Each seat has a capacity of 11 strictly, 10 or 11 strictly. So don't overdo it. You shall be issued with something that looks like this. It has 2 sides. Please don't tear it down. You will need at least, it will need to be torn or checked before you actually get access to the restaurant. And on that note, I hope everybody is having fun. We have our volunteers stationed strategically, pale na pale. Water bottles, you don't really have to move with them. They're going to be placed, all of them, as we come back from lunch. Anything else that I need to say? Pardon? Yes, the next session is going to happen after 30 to 45 minutes. So depending on how fast we action down there, we should start the next session in 30 to 45 minutes. Oh. So we shall start with Theo. Sorry, I have no idea. We have Timothy who will be doing a lightning session again, 10 minutes, and then we shall have a breakout of Titus and who's the second? Sorry, who is just but allow me just to give you feedback as we have our minutes. That's okay? Awesome. If possible, please work with your expensive gadgets and yeah, anything that you do not want to start. And on that note, can we say we begin? So remember to get this. You must have this. If you don't get one, let me know. We shall get you one. And give me the code away. Don't use it. Yeah, itaanza. Siogope kula.
Watu wako LinkedIn, Sunday. Wale soda. Najua hizo ndio kuangalia. Tunaongelanga ni chani kunati sana. Tunaongelanga zi. Oh. Yeah. Shida kwa siku ya think so but more people don't know. I know that. Unakuja kada hizo dadi nilitiliwa. Look at this. So much fun expensive gadgets.
We need to